kind of talk, un-American. In the second comic, same year, Superman stops a group of children congregated by a building that has been vandalized. They're blonde, blue-eyed kids looking at the mess. They tell Superman that kids from another neighborhood with accents did this for no reason, and the police caught them in the act. Superman asks if they've been arrested. No, the kids complain. They continued that the policemen seemed to be on the vandals' side. Superman asks what they meant, and the kids reply that the police read the vandals their rights and told them that they had the right to remain silent. And they also had the right to have an attorney with them. Now, how about that, they said. Superman replies that everybody here has the same rights as everyone in our system of justice. Only a court of law is allowed to decide guilt to make sure that justice is done. The rules must be the same for everyone, so it's important for everyone to know his rights. So why don't we just clean up this mess and get on with life? And then in the final reading for today, in another comic book, this time it was written just a few years ago, after Superman defeats a supervillain, the villain calls Superman a twit, saying, "If you think I'm going to jail, you're living in a dream world." Superman replies, "Good. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world of dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting, ever." In 1954, Dr. Frederick Werthman, a noted psychologist, testified to the Senate Judiciary Committee's investigation into juvenile delinquency. He warned about the dangers the comic book Superman imposed on young children. He said, "I would like to point out to you one crime comic book which we have found to be particularly injurious to the ethical development of children, and these are the Superman comics. They arose from children's fantasies of sadistic joy in seeing other people punished over and over again while you yourself remain immune. We have called it the Superman complex. In these comic books, the crime is always real, and Superman's triumph over good is unreal. Moreover, these books, like many others, teach complete contempt of the police. All this, to my mind, has the effect very well expressed by Did you see that? It was faster than a speeding bullet. It looked more powerful than a locomotive and probably able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It was Superman. I think practically everyone in the congregation knew who I was talking about. It's part of the American DNA. We long for a hero to make the world a better place. We are overwhelmed by changes in today's world that appear and disappear without reason. We're drowned in the world's cynicism. Selfishness is rampant. So is stupidity. It's easy to lose sight of the possibility that a better future is waiting for us somewhere, sometime, if only we can be brave enough and strong enough to take a stand. We found that person with the world's first superhero, who just happens to be an undocumented alien. And by the way, he is a real alien. As the publication Screen Rant wrote last year, Superman embodies hope. He reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we can persevere. His unwavering belief in the potential for good, even in the darkest of circumstances, serves as a powerful reminder that we too can choose to see the light, to believe in a brighter tomorrow. That's why two high school students invented Superman. The year was 1938, and the world needed a hero to help save democracy and restore justice, just like it needs one today. In 1938, the world was going to hell in a handbasket. The worst economic depression entered its ninth year with no end in sight. The US unemployment rate teetered around 20%. Hitler invaded Austria and proclaimed a unified Nazi Germany. Nazis destroyed the Jewish shops, homes, and synagogues in the Kristallnacht riots. As a result, more than 20,000 Jews were sent into concentration camps. A nationwide drought was going strong in the US, creating a dust bowl that wouldn't end until 1941. An unexpected hurricane wreaked havoc on the East Coast, resulting in over 600 deaths. And the US population entered 1938 with 21% of rural families receiving federal emergency relief. 1938 was also the year when Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, sons of Jewish immigrants, decided to create a Superman, who just happened to be the world's strongest man, and he could fly. But not all was sunshine and roses for Superman, as his creation story reveals. There was also kryptonite and a multitude of villains waiting for world dominance. In 1932, at the age of 16, while fooling around with the idea of Superman, Siegel's father died of a heart attack during a robbery at the family clothing store. It's reported that the earliest sketches show Superman saving a man at gunpoint. That Superman looked a lot like Jerry Siegel's father. Jerry Siegel's wife once recalled watching Joe Shuster draw sketches of Jerry with his hands on his hips. They also made Superman's alter ego, Clark Kent, a reporter, which was a dream Siegel held as a child. They took their story door to door to newspaper publishers with the hopes of selling Superman as a comic strip. They had no luck. In the end, Siegel and Shuster sold the rights to everything connected to Superman to Action Comic Books for the grand total of $130. And then they were hired as ordinary employees. But like all American legends, the Superman story will be told and retold countless times, with constant changes to the plot line. But the moral of Superman's story will always remain the same, that America is a country made up from immigrants whose varied backgrounds, talents, and beliefs make our democracy strong. Superman was born Kal-El on the fictional planet Krypton. As a baby, his parents sent him to Earth in a small spaceship shortly before Krypton was destroyed in a natural disaster. His ship landed on the American countryside near the fictional town of Smallville, Kansas. He was found and adopted by farmers Jonathan and Martha Kent, who named him Clark Kent. Clark began developing superhuman abilities such as incredible strength and a skin that could repel bullets. His adoptive parents wanted him to use his power to benefit humanity, so he decided to fight crime. To protect his personal life, he changed into a colorful costume and used the alias Superman while fighting crime. Jerry A. Fowler wrote in Medium magazine, "Superman's character is a profound blend of modern myth-making and ancient heroism, embodying traits of legendary figures like Hercules and spiritual leaders like Jesus Christ. His ongoing relevance and adaptability in media underscore the deep human need for stories that inspire and motivate us towards greater ideals. As both a myth and a mirror reflecting societal values, Superman continues not just to be a superhero, but a cultural icon that speaks to the hero in all of us." But more on that later. Superman's first story, known as the Golden Age by comic book historians, were about real issues that affected everyday people. Car accidents, fires, floods, that sort of thing. And as time passed, Action Comics started to include stories of Superman fighting off anti-Semitic villains. With Hitler's rise in Europe, they portrayed Superman protecting people who were mistreated. And as World War II began, Action Comics worked hard to create stories of hope that would cheer people on as things looked hopeless. One of their more popular stories included Superman confronting Hitler and exposing the horror that was being inflicted upon the Jewish people of Europe. Superman declared war on Hitler and the Emperor Hirohito. He ravages the Siegfried Line, twisting cannons into pretzels and swatting planes like flies. He taunted the German soldiers by asking them to fire the mutilated weapons. When he finally confronts Hitler, Superman gives him an upper jab to the jaw and tells him to stuff a non-Aryan sock in his mouth. Then Superman drags him and Stalin to stand trial for war crimes before the League of Nations. Superman infuriated the entire Nazi regime. Das Schwarze Korps, the weekly newspaper of the SS, wrote how Superman comic books were brainwashing the children of America. They continued that there is nothing that the aristocratic Jewish high priests wouldn't do for money. They went on to argue that Superman was pushing the Jewish agenda. He sows hate, suspicion, evil, laziness. After the war, when anti-Semitism and Jim Crow legislation were all the rage, Superman fought the Ku Klux Klan. Clan of the Fiery Cross was written as a radio serial, an adventure which ran from June to July of 1946. In the 1950s and 60s, however, when the war was over and life became easier, the silver age of comic books was ushered in turn, Superman's life became easier. The stories became fluffier. Superman was joined by real-life American icons such as Jerry Lewis, Don Rickles, even Pat Boone. But my favorite is when Superman worked with President John F. Kennedy. Let's read the dialogue if you can. Superman tells the president, "You were perfect, Mr. President." Kennedy says, "Superman, I told you to call me if ever you needed help, and I'm glad you did. And I'll guard your secret identity as I guard the secrets of our nation." "I realize that, sir. I knew it wasn't risking my secret identity with you. After all, if I can't trust the President of the United States, who can I trust?" In 1978, Superman fought racial bigotry with a boxing match with Muhammad Ali. Superman had to shed his superpowers and fight as an ordinary man. Well, you can guess what happens. You might be wrong, however, because he loses the fight. But Superman and Ali join forces to fight off an alien armada hell-bent on taking over the universe. They win when Ali knocks the alien out of this world, literally. The very end of the story, Ali and Superman are shown in a private moment. Ali reveals that he figured out Superman's secret identity as Clark Kent, but implicitly vows to keep it secret. The comic ends with the two champions embracing and Ali proclaiming, "Superman, we are the greatest." And in 1988, Gene Luen Yang, a MacArthur Fellow and author of the best-selling young adult novel American-Born Chinese, remembers reading a book based on the KKK series with his son. They went to the library and found a book called Superman versus the KKK. Yang created an adult book entitled Superman Smashes the Klan, freely adopted from the earlier stories. In the latter, Yang went even further. He revealed actual Ku Klux Klan code words, rituals, along with its bigotry. And it featured a Chinese-American family that moved to Metropolis. A Chinese-American family in Kansas. Imagine that. Well, that was too much for the Klan, and they brought out their arsenal of hate crimes to use against the fictional family. You can imagine what Superman thought about that. Yang said during an interview with Inverse magazine that Superman Smashes the Klan was his attempt to talk about modern issues in an old context. Quote, "For fanboys like me, who were criticized for having our heads in another universe, this was a great example of a guy in a cape that had a real positive effect on the world." Coming this month, on July 11th, another Superman story will excite audiences, this time at the Metroplexes. It's greatly anticipated because in today's world, we need all the heroes we can get. In fact, Superman's motto, truth, justice, and the American way, has become in need of updating. A new updated version of the Superman model will appear on Earth to save humanity. They haven't released an official synopsis yet, and they're sneaky devils, but their tagline follows our superhero as he reconciles his heritage with his human upbringing. And this embodiment of truth, justice, and the human way is a world that views this as old-fashioned. His motto has been rewritten to truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. But are these attributes attainable? A Canadian farmer and blogger simply named Jake wrote that we could learn from Superman's plans that appear to be a page out of the Unitarian Universal Principles. Superman can help us escape the struggles of suffering we all face in our lives. He is a vehicle to show us that anyone, even the smallest person, can change the course of the future. So how do we start? Cora asked that very question. Here are what readers sent in. Courage and bravery. Heroes face challenges and difficult situations with courage, often putting themselves at risk to helping others. Selfishness. Heroes prioritize the need of others over their own, acting without expecting recognition or reward. Empathy and compassion. They understand and share the feelings of others, showing compassion and concern for their well-being. Responsibility. Heroes take the ownership for their actions and decisions, accepting the consequences of their actions. But perhaps most of all, we should be guided by integrity and a moral compass, our sense of right and wrong, and make decisions that align with our values and principles. My great-grandparents came to this country through Ellis Island. From my father's side, they came from Italy. It is said that my great-grandmother had to hide in a trunk when they boarded the ship to America because she and her husband feared the U.S. wouldn't allow a woman who couldn't speak English to enter into this country. On my mother's side, my great-grandparents came from Sweden and Norway. At that time, they didn't speak English either. They had to live in one of his brother's barn, along with cows and horses. But my great-grandparents all knew the words that were written on Lady Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to be free. Sorry, I'm tearing up. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to be free. The wretched refuge of your teeming shore, yearning to be free. Superman gives us that dream of a better world in issue 775. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us into something better. And on my soul, I swear that until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice are the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting. Ever. And may we never stop fighting either. This Land is Your Land is our closing hymn. It is often considered the first American protest song.